Scoodly doodly doo, it's time for another Welch review. Scoodly doodly doo doo.
Evening, gang, and welcome to the Welch Review.
We're your hosts, Sam and Stefan, and today we're talking about Wonder Woman 1984. So, what do we got?
So, in the lineup for Patty Jenkins' follow-up to Wonder Woman, we have Wonder Woman herself, Gal Gadot, as Dianna Prince, and as already stated, Wonder Woman. It'd be weird if she didn't play that character as well. We have Chris Pine returning as Steve Trevor, as I'm sure most of you were shocked by the trailer of his return. I know I was.
He kind of exploded in the last movie, if you don't. If you haven't seen it, sorry.
And we have Pedro Pascal, right, coming off The Mandalorian, joining the DCU as Maxwell Lord. We have Kristen Wiig. I can't say enough good things about Kristen Wiig in this movie. I can't wait to talk to you and you about her. She plays Barbara Babs Minerva. Babs is not what she goes by. That's just what I hope we refer to her as. And as you may know, Barbara Minerva becomes this character. Hi, the blank there, right? Unless you're a comic book fan or you've seen the movie or, you know, you're
we're going to leave that as a surprise. You'll find out.
Right, but she's just the best. She's the tops, and we'll come back to her. We also have Robin Wright as Antiope, Connie Nielsen as Hippolyta, my apologies.
It's a made-up name.
But Connie Nielsen's from Mass, so that's really cool. So thank you, Connie. Then we have young Lily Espel as young Diana, who plays Diana on Themyscira in her girlhood days of riding horses and learning to kill.
Yeah.
You know, everything any young child needs.
Any growing kid needs to know how to murder someone.
That's right.
It's important.
And this is written by Patty Jenkins. She also, with her, is Dave Callahan and Geoff Johns. Geoff Johns famously revamped Aquaman, made him cool. This was directed by Patty Jenkins, as stated, and these are based on characters by Professor William Moulton Marston. And if you're interested in more of his personal life and how he created Wonder Woman, you should check out the movie Professor Marston and the Wonder Women.
Yeah, so, got a pretty interesting plot here. Jump in a couple of years into the future from when we last saw Wonder Woman. But the movie opens up back on Themyscira when she's still a child. Honestly, I think this is one of the weakest parts of the film, but we'll talk about that in the future. She basically competes in these Amazonian games.
Like Quidditch.
Like Quidditch. Some of it's like Quidditch, some of it's like literally an obstacle course.
Yeah.
There's other archery portions.
Some of it's like Hunger Games-esque, like
Kind
when they're doing the pole thing and they nudge some people.
Yeah, it's a little triathlon-y here and there too. So it's in a weird scene, kind of. It doesn't really feel like it needs to be there. But basically, she loses and her mom tells her, like, hey, you lost because you cheated and you're not a cheater.
I'd argue she didn't even cheat. She was just inventive on how to get back on track.
Dirty cheater.
It's a really long
moving on.
Way
We will talk
to say that.
We will talk about her cheatery in the future. So immediately afterwards, we get a montage of Wonder Woman whooping some bums, and not homeless people, but criminals.
Imagine.
Yeah, just Wonder Woman beating the crap out of hobos. That'd be wild. Anyway, so she's beating up these bad guys. She kicks one car out of the way to save a jogger. And then eventually it brings us to the end of the montage where we have some jewelry store robbers, because in the back of said jewelry store are a bunch of antiques, black market antiques, which is kind of weird.
But also very interesting, because it's like, K Jewelers, not just kissing in K's, you know what I'm saying?
Hanoush, what do you have back there? Is it the Lost Ark of the Covenant? I think so. So we get all that, her beating up some just like basic plebs, right? So some like basic backyard mall thieves. I don't know what to call them. Anyways, And then afterwards, we go.
Mullet wearing shenanigans. That what that was. Some mullet wearing shenanigans.
All right, because they did have mullets.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
not bad. So after that, we get into Diana's just day-to-day life. She works at the Smithsonian because she's old as dirt, and she comes from an Amazonian background, so like an ancient Greek background. So she works at the Smithsonian, and she bumps into a new character, Babs.
I really wish that's what she was called.
Yeah, what's her last name?
Oh, Minerva.
Minerva. Babs Minerva. Barbara Minerva. Who at this time is like a background character to life. Or at least that's how Babs sees herself. Immediately in that scene, there's people who Barbara has already met and was hired by who forgets that she exists. And they're like, oh, who are you? And she's like, actually, you hired me like a week ago, and like, we've talked multiple times. And they're like, yeah, okay, nice meeting you. Bye-bye now. And Diana befriends her, right? Because Diana's a good person. And then immediately afterwards, the FBI rolls up and they're like, yo, we just confiscated all of these antiques from this jewelry store and we want you guys to check them out for us because, it's the Smithsonian. That's what they do. They have old things.
Old thing.
Yeah. So Diana and Babs together are inspecting these different pieces of ancient history, and they come across one that they're like, hey, looks kind of fake. Like this crystal that they used for it is constantly used in fakes. But along the rim, it said, and kind of smudged out in Latin, he who places the person who places their hand on this object can make a wish. And they're like, ha ha ha, like that's dumb, whatever. But then, like, random Joe Schmo from the background comes over and he touches it and he's like, oh, I wish I had a coffee right now. And somebody behind him immediately is like, hey, I got you this coffee, enjoy. And they're like, wow, that's kind of a coincidence. And Diana at the time's holding it. She like, in her head makes a wish. And she's basically like, hey, I wish that my boyfriend was less dead.
I wish he wasn't a pile of ashes.
Yeah, I wish that he didn't die 50 years ago. Hint, hint, that eventually comes true in the film, and we'll talk about that later on. But moving on from there, we wind up having multiple characters who kind of are either looking for this gem or use the power of this gem outside of Diana and Coffee Guy.
Coffee Guy.
One of them is Miss Minerva, right?
Yeah.
So she, as she becomes friends with Diana, is like, wow, I want to be beautiful like her. I want to be important like her. I want people to think I'm sexy, and I just want to be like Diana. And of course, she doesn't know that means that you can throw tanks at gods and fight Mars. But she kind of finds that out eventually because her wish comes true. She becomes like Diana. But then we also have our antagonist, who is seeking out this stone. In fact, he had bought it from this black market jewelry shop, which they hint at. But he wants it because his company's failing.
This
right?
is Maxwell Lord.
This is Maxwell Lord. So Maxwell Lord has an oil-based Ponzi scheme called Black Gold, where he basically pitches it that if you send him some money, you'll become rich because you'll somehow become part of his oil empire. He also has no oil, actually, so his company is falling apart very fast, and his last-ditch effort is to find this mythical stone, right? This mythical crystal, and basically use its power to make himself powerful and successful. So eventually kind of tricks Minerva into getting it from him. From her.
Isn't that what he just seduces her?
Yeah. He uses his sexy Mandalorian body.
He was like, this is the way!
Yeah. The way to giving me that dang crystal, woman. So he gets the crystal, and instead of doing what everybody would predict, like, he doesn't go all freezing and is like, I want to live forever. He's like, give me all of the powers of the stone. So how he winds up using that is he'll walk up to you and he'll be like, hey, don't you wish that this happened? Wouldn't that be great? And they'd be like, yeah, of course I wish that happened, right? Like, say, you just got broken up with, and he'd come over and be like, hey, don't you wish that your girlfriend, like, didn't dump you? And then you'd be like, yeah, that'd be awesome. Like, I'm crying over here, obviously. But what they don't know is that the stone takes from you in an equal measure to what it gives. So he gets to choose to take from you whatever he wants. And he uses that to inflate his oil company. He steals oil from basically everybody on the planet who has it. And he just accumulates power in this way. At the same time, though, Dianna is experiencing some issues because, to get her boyfriend back, she's also lost some stuff.
Right.
So what our main characters figure out, Babs, Dianna, and Mr. Pine, what they all figure out is that to get rid of these wishes, all that you have to do is be like, hey, I revoke my wish, I don't want it anymore, or you can destroy the crystal. Now, the crystal's a human, and, most people like their wish, or at least the upside that they got, right? They're blinded by how nice the upside is. They eventually are trying to figure out how to defeat this guy who is now basically, can do whatever he wants. And that's really the main plot of the film without giving away too much. So with all of that said, for what may secretively have been the fourth time, what did you think about our star character Gal Gadot? What did you think about her performance as Dianna?
I really enjoy her as Dianna, right? This is a character we've now gotten to see over the span of arguably 4 movies, right?
Yeah.
Like, I get, Batman v Superman, she didn't have a huge part, but it's really cool to see the same actress take this character on this journey.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting that this movie is in a way a period piece, right? Because it's very set in the 80s.
Yeah.
So it's not, we haven't got to modern times with Dianna, so we're still watching her grow
As a hero.
Yeah. And that's cool. And she experiences, I would say, more of an emotional side in this movie versus the first one.
Yeah.
Right? Like the real idea of loss, right? And what that's like for a superhero.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe more so just a person.
Yeah,
right?
and living with that loss for forever.
Yeah.
She doesn't age really.
But then I also think, right, there are some really good lessons in this film, right? And it might border on being preachy, but the idea of trying to, don't lie, don't cheat, right? Try to enjoy the little things. Things like parents tell kids, up until they're 40, maybe even 50, right? And vice versa, and grandkids, all that kind of stuff. Normal things. But I guess it's just different seeing it in a superhero film, right? Because I don't know if most of them have, Avengers, right? There's no real moral agenda there. Right?
Yeah.
There's nothing they're trying to tell you directly, the viewer.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. I also feel like it's a very empowering movie, right? Especially for young women, right? To see somebody like that on the screen. So I think she's doing a fabulous job as Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's cool, and I can't really say this for any of the other heroes in the DCU. When I think Wonder Woman, I just think Gal Gadot.
Yeah.
Right? When you think Wolverine, you think Hugh Jackman.
Right.
That's just what comes to mind. She really not only as a physical embodiment of that character, but it just is her. Now that is Wonder Woman. Which I don't really, I was just saying, I don't think that a lot of DC has been able to capture that. I mean,
sadly true.
Aside from her, the only one who comes close is Aquaman, right? But I don't, when I think Aquaman, I think blonde guy. not
with a hook.
with
Right?
a hook, not giant Samoan man. And you know, he's a good actor in his own right, but yeah, Gal Gadot has really captured that character. It's like her and Harley Quinn; those are like the only two.
And what's cool though is like, you know how like sometimes just like, oh right, like it's an action, but like there's actual acting like in this film. You know what I mean? It's not just like, oh cool, you know, beautiful woman saves the day, beats up bad guys. There's actual acting going on. Like they really like I believe I'm watching like real stuff without trying to sound stupid.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like they're convincing, right? They're not just showing up for a paycheck. You know what I mean? They're not walking through it as if it doesn't matter to them. These are characters that matter, well, at least to her. And
yeah, I think some of them do. There are some characters that I don't think are the best, like Max Lord. I think that initially his character makes sense, right? Because he's like this used car salesman with just like a butt ton of influence.
right.
And that really is who he is throughout the entire film. So he doesn't really falter on that. But there's like attributes that they put in to try to make him more human. Like they gave him a son.
Oh, Alistair, yeah.
And Alistair is kind of a useless part of the plot throughout the entire film. Like he basically just ignores Alistair all the time.
It's kind of like a ham-fisted, like, oh, he's my motivation. He's why I'm doing this. It's like, all right, well, he's maybe in the movie for all of, what, 10 minutes?
Oh, he's in the movie for too long, and he doesn't...
He's in the movie too long. Sorry, go ahead.
Unless Alistair is actually in the shot, nobody talks about or cares about Alistair. You know, it's not like Max Lord says, you know, all of this is for you to Alistair multiple times, but if Alistair isn't there, he doesn't ever talk about him or about how he wishes to help his son or, you know, worries about him or anything.
No, he's hiding his morals behind his heart, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's just like, yeah, I'm saying this to make me feel better.
Exactly.
Right? So that way maybe you'll think I'm okay. Mm-hmm. And no, I agree with that, right? At first I thought like, oh, okay, man, like you're trying to provide, you're trying to give your son a better life, but like as it progresses, right, he just oozes greed, right?
Yeah.
Like it fits that whole used car salesman thing.
So like, yeah, I think there's parts of his character. I don't think that the actor who played him did a bad job. I don't think that they should have given him a son or really went hard in the redemption arc angle because they tried very hard for that, and I don't think that it was necessary. All right, what about Babs? She's the one that you were really excited about.
No, I am. I really am. There's one thing, in a lot of ways, right, I felt like as the movie went on with Pedro Pascal, it's just like, oh man, you're just Jafar from Aladdin. Yeah. Like that's what you are. You're Jafar, man. That's what they've done to you.
He makes wishes.
Yeah.
He chills.
Right?
He doesn't chill. He's just low-key evil.
Well, he kind of chills for a little while. He's like, yo, man, you're the president. You're going to do what I want now. And now, oh, what's that thing? Right?
Yeah.
Right? So, in a sense, yeah, he chills.
Yeah. Anyways, keep going.
But anyway, so like, yeah, they're like, all right, man, Monkey's Paw, Aladdin. That's what this seems like a weird mashup of. Because I felt that there was a lot of Pedro Pascal and Max Lord and only like a dash of Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
It felt like most of the screen time was taken up by Maxwell Lord.
Yeah.
Which, you know, in the beginning was okay. I was okay with that. But toward the end, and we'll get to that, it just seemed like a little much.
Yeah.
But anyway, who I think the star of the show, right, the big standout for me is Kristen Wiig, right? Now, this is an actress who primarily does comedies, right? She was in Bridesmaids. That was her big breakthrough. She was in the female-led Ghostbusters. She's done a couple dramas here and there, so like she can handle those type of chops. But she's not a character an actress rather, I would assume play like in this kind of film, right?
Yeah.
Like it's never been like I would say Ghostbusters is the biggest profile thing she's been in. So to see her in something like this, I hope opens a lot more doors for her, improves, right, just how versatile she is, because she brought a lot of emotion to Minerva, right? Like when you meet her, right? Like you said, she's a background character but for life.
Yeah.
Right? Like she's a beautiful woman. It boggles my mind how people aren't paying attention to her, right? But she's kind of klutzy, right? She might be, I don't know if ditzy is an appropriate term, but like just a little like, like trying to laugh at like her own clumsiness to fit in, right? And she's a character who I think encompasses that whole idea of like, I just want to find my tribe, right? I want to find my people. I want to be understood. I want to be part of the game, right? And that's a very human thing. And Kristen Wiig captures that beautifully. And then especially when like she's looking at the stone and she's like, I want to be like Dianna. I want to be smart. I want to be cool. I want to be sexy, right? I want to be respected, right?
Yeah. No, she has a lot of good stuff going on for her, and then like her character does like kind of this 180, right?
Well, she does the 180, but I guess what I was trying to go for was those are all realistic things, right? Like someone out there is hoping to be like that. Like, like, oh man, like, I wish I look like George Clooney, right? Or like, with writing, I wish I was a better writer, things like that. Like, I wish I fit in more. These are all things that people wish for. So her wishing on it didn't seem far-fetched.
No.
And like just even her body language, right? Like her acting was good, but her body language just matched and you felt for her. Mm-hmm. And then her whole 180, right? You see her slow descent once she has what she wants, right? And it's like, all the years I've been ridiculed, and felt strange and not accepted, right? Like, I'm not going back to that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do whatever I need to do to keep this newfound power I have. Yeah. And I think it might have been cooler to explore. Like, I'd like to see a spin-off more on just her character.
Yeah, I think, she definitely goes mad with power, but I definitely think that's it's in the cards. It's what was supposed to happen for her character. And honestly, I think her character, her transition from like this kind of nobody background person to, important but also kind of evil, was well done. I think that it was well done, and it does a good job showing how, kind of like the Joker, how somebody who is overlooked and forgotten, not crazy like the Joker, might have some kind of descent, but also it's kind of fueled by this whole monkey's paw background, right? So it's not just her own personality breaking, it's like a supernatural effect.
Well, the other thing that ties into that, right, is, we covered that, but like there's a scene where she's walking home, right? Now this is a very realistic thing. All of the thing aside from the wishing is very real. I feel for this this character conveys a lot of realities. Mm-hmm. So the scene where she's walking and this drunk keeps harassing her, right? And it's like, I'm tired of being the one picked out of the herd, right? Like the weakest. I'm tired of being hunted and preyed upon. Not just in the way of being harassed, but like unnoticed, right? And not fitting in with everyone. But that scene, right, where she's like, it makes sense when she's like, I want to be an apex predator. I don't want to be like anyone else, right? And it's like, okay. Like you're saying, her arc, I feel, is very, very, very defined. And it's done very well. So for me, Kristen Wiig was the big standout in this, and I really hope there's more of her character in further DC films. And I guess I'd just like to see more of her as an actress and other things of a higher status, caliber.
Yeah. All right. So as far as actors, I think we got that pretty well covered. But there are some kind of like glaring holes in this film. Maybe not plot holes, because the plot is pretty consistent the whole way through. But what it kind of falls short on is big climactic like fight pieces. They build up this armor that an ancient Themysciran had worn, and then it basically gets trashed in like the first 12 seconds of it being used. The big confrontation with Maxwell Lord.
That was lame.
Was really lame. Basically, Dianna can hardly do anything because like there's a like.
He has tornado powers.
He has like wind powers, and she's like being pushed back, and she can't get through. This is a lady who fought a god in the last film, and now like a light breeze is keeping her away. So there's like the ending's bad in my own opinion, and it's just because they don't pay it off well. Like everything else is good besides like the Themysciran sideshow that happens for 15 minutes at the beginning of the film. It felt kind of like the casino scene in Star Wars Episode 7 or 8.
Yeah, The Last Jedi.
In The Last Jedi, and it's just like, why is this here? Like, you did this whole 15-minute stint just so you could tell her that lying's bad and not to be greedy, because then the rest of the film is about how being greedy is bad.
Yeah.
So I thought that all of that was very poorly done. I'm not going to explain how, but the bad guy basically defeats himself.
He is... Well, the message, now that you think about it, is kind of cool. Like, you are your own hero, right? Well, and that is kind of... Like, it's awesome, right, in reality, but in a film, it's dumb. Like, that's a dumb way to end a superhero movie.
Yeah.
Like, hey, man, you're the villain, but you're your own hero.
Yeah, I didn't come here to watch you have an emotional crisis at the end of a film. I came here to, like, watch Wonder Woman kick the crap out of super baddies.
Yeah.
Aside from that, there's, like as far as pros of the film, there's some really good emotional connection between Chris Pine and Gal Gadot. Chris Pine is kind of hysterical throughout the whole film. Like, he's not like outwardly trying to be funny, but like, there's a scene where they're looking at art, and then there's a trash can, but because he's from like 50 years ago, the trash cans didn't look the same, so he thinks that that's art. And like, his style for clothing is ridiculous, but he's also trying to fit into the 1980s, right, which has ridiculous clothing. So there's just like a lot in there with that connection specifically that's done very well. The other thing that I thought was cool, which was a fight scene, was in between Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, and Babs. And throughout the whole thing, it shows how Babs, who now has powers equal to Wonder Woman, because that's what she wished for, right, but she uses them very physically and brutally, whereas Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, is literally just graceful the entire time.
Not really capitalizing on the force that she could.
Well, no, she does, but in it she has this armor that has wings, and she literally floats through things. She uses her power gracefully, whereas Babs is like jumping off walls and like throwing herself across the scenes to get at Wonder Woman, and it just shows a divide in between them. Like, they have equal power, but the way that they wield it is completely different, and it does a good job showing what their characters are like, right? One's very brutal and cruel, and the other is graceful, and she moves with intention. She acts with intention. She knows what she's about. So I thought that was done well. There are parts in that same fight scene later on that I'm like, what? This is really stupid, but most of the fight is actually really awesome. So the fights I can't really complain about.
I wish there were more, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I also would say the design of Babs' final form, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was really well done,
Yeah,
right?
cool.
Incorporating, that Apex ideology.
Yeah, the
right?
Apex Predator thing,
Yeah, like that was cool. Yeah, and I guess the other thing that's a real plot hole, right? Like, it shows like the consequences, right? Maxwell Lord, with some of his health, right? And Minerva's
Character change.
transformation
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. And I guess, right, Wonder Woman, to her extent, what happens to her. But, like, they just seem okay, like, when Steve, like, comes back, right? Like, there's no real consequence, for that whole thing. Which, I guess, when watching it, I don't know about you, but I didn't find myself questioning it. I was just like, yo, man, Steve Trevor's back. This is great.
Yeah, he just possesses a dude for like a week.
Yeah, so it's like, they make you buy into it enough, or it doesn't really, like, come back to like, oh, wait, that happened, right?
There's another person.
To like later on in the film or possibly after, when you think about it, you're just like, wait a minute, they just showed a possession and nobody's talking about this, right? There's not like so I find like one that is definitely a hole, but at the same time they do it so well that you don't really care.
Yeah, it's a little like morally compromising, right? Because Gal Gadot throughout the whole film is like, this is fine, you can just possess this dude for the rest of his life. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you're the hero though. Like,
yeah, you can't get mad at these people and then like, be holding on to like the treasure all for your own.
Yeah. So overall, Wonder Woman has some really good strengths. Like when it's good, it is very good. It's not like, gonna win any Academy Award, but it is a good film when it's good, and when it's bad, it's corny.
Yeah.
Like really corny.
Really preachy corny.
Really preachy corny, and I just don't think there's any other way to explain it. I would still suggest watching it if you have a friend who has HBO, but don't rush out to get HBO to watch Wonder Woman.
Definitely don't risk going to the theaters.
Yeah.
To see it. Either wait for it to come on DVD or watch party. And it is a good film, like Sam said. There are good moments. However, you do have to go in knowing there are some slumps in there. You're just like, really?
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I think Kristen Wiig saves this movie. She's this real standout for me. She's a treasure in this. I know it's a long shot, but I hope she's nominated for something. Maybe even a Golden Globe. I would be cool with that. I hope she is. Kristen Wiig, you keep doing cool stuff.
Alright, this has been the Welch Review.
And we will see you next time.